So what is HR's strategic responsibility? There are 4 things: recruitment, retention, training, and rewards. I think it was employee Colton that first identified the 4 R's of workforce engagement. But this is the strategic responsibility of HR for the organization. This is where you can most contribute to organizational value in these 4 areas. So let's put them in different terms. In today's language, recruitment, that's talent acquisition. Retention, that's leadership development. If you don't have ways to move employees forward, to keep them appropriately tethered to the organization, if you're not growing leaders from within the organization, you're losing a valuable talent on behalf of the organization. It's leaving the organization, and then you have to start all over again. I mean, the cost of bringing someone new in and training that person as opposed to investing in the ones that you already have in the organization, it's exponential in terms of those numbers. So just mathematically, it just makes more sense. Plus, you have someone who's already attuned to the culture of the organization. So retention is about leadership development. Retraining is about knowledge management, making sure that you have appropriately captured the knowledge that's inside of your employees, that you've identified the particular skill sets, and when it happens, it's a thing of beauty for me. To see organizations go in and literally be able to classify on an employee by employee basis the particular skills and abilities that this employee has that contribute to this strategic competency that the organization possesses. So that when you train, you're making sure that individuals who possess this particular skill set are in this particular department, and that you've got an effective training program in place, that as they move up, that you've got new people who come in that are mentored and shepherded under them, and that they are constantly driving that knowledge process forward so that everybody's on the same page. There's this interesting thing called, the underground of how things get done in an organization, right? There's the policy and procedure manual, right? That's the written and formalized instruction. And then you've got the underground. This is how you really get things done. And some of us do a good job of capturing the formal, but we don't do a very good job of capturing the informal. And the informal is, on a production line, that one employee who's been there or I'll just tell you this, out in Sugar Land, at the sugar mill, there was this guy who worked there for, years and years and years. And new guy came in and was like, okay, so for this particular job, how do you know when the sugar is done? How do you know when it's ready? And he said, it was a chemist that came and was asking so that they could document some processes. And he says, I stick my hand in it in order to be able to know. And he's like, well, I can't document that, stick your hand into it in order to know. But what he was talking about was the informal knowledge process that he had built up over time in order to help him to be able to know exactly when that sugar was ready. And so those types of underground knowledge currents are things that actually are important sources of knowledge for your organization, but they're not being captured. So then when that person retires and they leave the organization and a new guy comes in, he's looking at the chemist manual. He's trying to figure it out that way. And then you have some margin of error. You have things that don't happen correctly. And that's just one example of how it happens. But, there are so many ways that knowledge leaks out of an organization. And if you're not capturing and retaining that information on behalf of your organization, what you'll find is that as people leave, that knowledge leaves, and then you can't figure out why performance isn't happening the way that it was before. I have a friend that is a draftsman, and he's about 63 years old, and he doesn't use the AutoCAD, he doesn't use any of that stuff, none of that, but he has this wonderful amalgam of experience and know-how that will keep him employed for about 3 to 4 more years before he needs to retire. And they won't get rid of him on the job because they recognize that what he has in his head, it can't be put down on paper. It just can't. There's some things that are irreplaceable. And so what they've started doing is shepherding. They've started sending new ones over to him just to shadow him for for a year, so that they can learn those critical detections that he learns over time in order to be able to replicate those processes. That's smart thinking, because the books can only tell you so much. So knowledge capture is a critical part of this. And that's what knowledge management is all about. As more and more employees savvy to the understanding that there's no loyalty for me to this company, and I can move from this one and move to that one. If that employee pendulum really starts to swing in that direction, knowledge capture is going to be very critical for organizations to continue to function and to thrive. And the final part is human capital investments. That's rewards. That's making sure that your employees are taken care of, that you've got things like work-home balance, home-life balance in place, that you're making sure that the benefits and compensation and all of that are there, that you're being responsive to the way that the workforce is changing. That if child care is something that becomes really critical for people in your organization, or if you've got same-sex partners that you need to address, and whatever are these things, whatever are the investments that need to be made in order for human capital to be ready, that you are making those investments on behalf of the organization. So this is HR's strategic responsibility to the organization. Now, anything else that HR does, it might be important, it might even be urgent, but it is not a strategic priority. Okay? All right, we're going to take a break, then we'll come back to the next section.